This is Lumpen FC.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. You're listening to WLPN Chicago 105.5 FM. Lumpen Radio, you are listening to Lumpen FC. We are back. This time we are here with BPF Book Club. I'm here with Drew and John, who we will be covering Eduardo Galeano's Soccer in Sun and Shadow. The English version will be translated by Mark Freed, and the introduction is by Rory Smith. Where would you like to get started? Actually, well, before we do that, sorry about that. We're going to do some of the promos. Barra Brava Brewing is a proud sponsor of Lumpen FC. You can find Barra Brava products at Life on Mars, Mars Community Brewing, and The Barrel in Pilsen. If you want to get in contact with us during the show, you can follow us on Twitch. We will try to get to any comments that you have on there. Just go to Lumpen Radio, Lumpen TV on Twitch. You can also hit us up on Instagram at Barra Brava Brewing Co., as well as 3160 Firm. You guys want to plug anything for Instagram? Or
I would always like to talk about my project, almostinform.com. Please go check it out if you have time. It's a soft culture soccer website about things going on in the world of footy in Chicago and other places.
And on Instagram, I am just Chicago Grays. I post about books, reading, and probably too much drinking. So,
which is the fun part, right? About the books and
exactly.
And the soccer. If you also want to get in contact with us through email, you can hit us up at lumpenfcradio@gmail.com. You can drop any comments or any questions that you have, or if you want any events that we might be popping up here soon. I know that we will be doing the tailgate and going to the game this weekend. Yeah. So Chicago Fire playing at home. So we'll be there. If you want any of the other events, we do have a lot of events and a lot of things going on. Just follow us again at Barra Brava & Co. or at 3160 Firm. Where would you like to get started with the book?
Well, we can start about, there's three of us here in the studio. So March 15th, we will have an in-person one. So if you are listening tonight and you're like, I want to get in on this, I'm not necessarily a fan of being on the radio or putting myself out there, but if you want to come out and talk about the book, March 15th, we will be at Mars at 1 p.m. I think that's after a Liverpool game. So after that game is done, we will discuss this book in person, hopefully with many, many more people. So please come out to that if today intrigues you.
After a Liverpool win.
Yes,
maybe.
If you can try to. I earlier today I was at Pilsen Community Books over there on 18th in their brand new location. They're just like a half block east of Ashland now. So please, if you can, go get the book from them. Do not support the guy that shoots himself into space for no good reason. Support the local Chicago book scene.
He doesn't shoot himself into space.
He doesn't shoot himself. Others. He shoots others into space. Correct. Yes. Well, he'll go up there when it is safe. He's like, you go be the guinea pig, Katy Perry.
Exactly.
Yeah. And this is actually a perfect book for talking about Chicago and Pilsen Community Books because they are actually doing a book on Eduardo Galeano tonight. They're doing his Open Veins of Latin America. So they are discussing that book tonight.
Essential reading.
Yeah. So and it is all about he was considered, I think one of the quotes is like he was a giant of the left in the Americas, and this was his fun book because he was such a passionate, enthusiastic soccer fan, football fan, and that shines through in this book. He was 74 years old when he passed. He died in 2015. Uruguayan, as I already mentioned, he wrote the book Open Veins of Latin America. He did a 3-volume book called Memory of Fire, La Memoria del Fuego. That was 1986, I believe.
That was rooted in sort of historical fiction, but also like has a lot of mysticism in it, like a lot of Central American authors.
And the man was exiled twice. He was exiled from Uruguay, and then later on he was imprisoned, and then he had to get out because of the coup and everything being overthrown. And then again he escaped to Argentina, and then he had to leave again in 1976. Leave Argentina, he had to go to Spain. So he lived a lot of these uprisings, and like being his Open Veins was banned in not just his home country of Uruguay, but it was banned in Argentina. It was banned, I believe, in Chile, and so it was like that like dictator playbook was like, no, you. Get out of our country, and so he had to keep moving around to just stay alive. Created a magazine called Crisis. So he was very much rooted in like the left and just supporting the people. So I feel that very much fits in with like Lumpen Radio.
Sure, absolutely.
And but yeah, let's get into the book. This was published originally in 1995, and it was published in English in 1997, and then pretty much every 4 years they would do a new edition every 4 years because of the World Cup.
There's some good annotations in there.
Yeah. So there'd be like a new edition that would come up, just like World Cup coming up. Here's a new one, and pretty much like he stopped writing about individual players because there's a lot of that in the book, but that stops in like the 90s. But then he would have his updates about each World Cup as this book goes through. But I kind of want to, and I'll start with mine, but like. There was a lot of just great information in here, just like soccer history, just stuff that like never heard of. And one of my favorites, so like kind of like what is your fun fact? And one of my favorites was the idea that the Uruguayan team originally had one of their teams was called the Chicago Martyrs.
Yeah, I got that. That's in my notes.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's so great. It says, but the club. Argentinos Juniors was born calling itself the Chicago Martyrs in homage to the anarchist workers, and May 1st was the chosen day to launch the club at Buenos Aires Anarchist Library. And I'm like, you don't get much more left than that. Yeah. So
he even goes on to talk a little bit more about that too, where he's like, this is back when left-leaning politics still really embraced football as the creative sort of aspect and what it was bringing to the table versus. And so and that kind of goes into what I hope we'll discuss tonight, is kind of the idea of like, is it still the beautiful game, or is it just like this very corporate kind of entity? But what were your guys' kind of like favorite parts or most interesting parts? Like, I think that it's really easy to talk about it in a chronological sense. So I'm going to start on the first page, basically, where he says a great quote where he says, "Years have gone by, and I finally learned to accept myself for who I am. I'm a beggar for good soccer. I go about the world, hand outstretched, and in the stadiums I plead pretty moves for the love of God. The metaphor of begging kind of reframes the spectator not as a consumer, but as a supplicant. Beauty is scarce, sacred, and unpredictable."
Yeah. It's just there's I feel like the English translation is decent because it is originally written in Spanish, and it's just beautiful language throughout.
I mean, it really is. It's a little bit hard to describe what kind of book it is because I almost think of it more as poetry than anything. Yeah, to be honest. It's vignettes, right?
Yeah, it's like and that was kind of like the struggle that he had with his career, because he wrote in a lot of these like mini essays or these prose poems. And he just describes things beautifully. And there's like you said, mysticism sometimes.
And then he puts his pen down.
Yeah, and then he's just like, oh yeah, and then or he'll be like, he died bereft and in poverty. Boom, and you're like, oh my God, what a way to end it. Yeah.
And it seems to be something that occurs often.
It's so thematic. Everything about this book is themes within themes within themes. Even the title is a theme. It's Soccer and Sun and Shadow is sort of like a focus on both the light and the dark side of all the different aspects. And there's many different aspects. So.
Yeah, the amount of ups and downs, like when he goes through each player and then he describes what each player, what their main component was towards the team, it's always these ups and downs, and it almost always ends up in the same way where like, oh, they ended up, alone and drunk and passing away with no money.
Yeah.
And that happens so many times with so many of the players that he describes. And it's kind of sort of, we're in an era where that sort of has changed, but not really. I mean, especially when you're looking at certain sports, NFL, NBA. I mean, it was an ESPN that just came out with a documentary, what was it, a few years ago, about how many basketball players just end up broke after they leave the NBA, how that happens to NFL players as well. And then on ESPN, they had that list at the end where they just mentioned the list of players that are all, bankrupt or declared bankruptcy at some point. And it was longer than the credits. And it's just, geez, that's just, and it's so, is that sports worldwide? Is that a phenomena that we don't look at? We don't even pay attention to?
Well, I will say one thing. This book was 1994, and he makes reference to the fact that of the top 40 most wealthy athletes in the world, there are only 2 soccer players, and that has changed. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if the spectacle, the overall conditions have changed, but there's a lot more money in football, and I think he sort of predicted a little bit of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like he went in that direction. For me, the quick take was the Fanatic, because when he does the descriptions of the football, the fan, the stadium, when I read the Fanatic, I was like, yeah, that's me. That's the one. Not too much into it because it is kind of long, but the Fanatic is a fan in a madhouse. His mania for denying all evidence finally upended whatever once passed for his mind, and the remains of the shipwreck spin about aimlessly in waters whipped by a fury that gives no quarter. And that's pretty much how I feel when I'm in the stands. And then that last paragraph is exactly like, especially when it comes to MLS, and then not to pick on MLS, I am definitely there more for that community in the 100%. Stands.
Yeah.
Than I am to watch the soccer. The soccer's amazing. I mean, if we win, that's fantastic. When we score, it's great.
But it's the SG community.
But yeah, that part where he says, in an epileptic fit, he watches the match but does not see it. His arena is in the stands. They are his battleground. The mere presence of a fan of the other side constitutes an inexcusable provocation. That's what it is.
You're guilty by existing.
You're wearing the jersey in the wrong spot, buddy.
But that's also important, I think, to talk about the structure of this book, where he starts, because it is a very much chronological thing, where he starts at the first World Cup, except for these first couple, 10 or 20 pages, where he really gets into like these archetypal, ideas of fandom, playerhood, sport in itself, a lot of these different essential themes.
He breaks it down. He's like, here is the striker, and this is what they're known for. Here is the goalie. This is what the goalie suffers through. Here's the referee. This is how the referee messes up the game, but also suffers because of the game. And he has that light and shadow.
It's an all-encompassing sort of description. I feel like this is what he's done is like, thousands of years from now, hundreds of thousands of years from now, if somebody finds this somewhere, this is his attempt to sort of explain from the base to the top.
One of the big lines that touches there, because the fan bases worldwide tend to protest in the stadiums with tifos or with banners or with flags. The one line that is so fitting now, especially in the situations that we're in right now in this country, good is not violent by nature, but evil leaves it no choice. And that's very like, okay, yeah. So, that's that understanding of like the protests that we do, why we do it it's because we have to. We're at a point where like, look, the TIFO is there because it's a point that has to be made. Yeah. So I think that's,
you've given us no voice in any other circumstance, in any other way. This is how we voice it as true. Yeah.
Exactly. And then, the upper brass comes down on us.
But I mean, what you're saying about the Fanatic, it goes to kind of like the dedication at the opening. In English, he says, he's like, these pages are dedicated to the children who once upon a time years ago crossed my path. And he's like, they've been playing soccer and we're singing, we lost, we won. Either way, we had fun. And the Spanish version, ganamos perdidos igual nos divertimos. And it's like, it's just that beauty of like, we lost, we won, we don't care. Like, it was fun. The game is fun.
It was fun.
Yeah.
That was the absolute point of it, yeah.
And that's kind of like, I feel like one of the reoccurring themes in the book is the game. As it become more corporatized, which he kind of like in the following essays, as it builds up over time, he talks about like the beauty of like Maradona and other players like having that
The
ability.
complexity.
Yeah, to go out and just have that individual, like that improv, that like a jazz musician, you do something beautiful and graceful on the field, and then you talk about like the modern day Premier League and like players like Grealish with Man City tied to the sideline,
Right.
and like this is your role, stick to your role,
Yeah.
and so you see him anticipating like that very specific kind of setup of the game of like, are you going to be allowed that freedom, or are we watching like a very finely tuned product on the field?
Exactly.
So
do you mind opening the door for Teresa's here? Sorry about that. And that's one of the as it goes through that timeline, as he grows with it. What's really I think the corporatization of the game is absolutely something that nobody's really wrapped their head around that. And then the way he was explaining it, how it began with Scotland with the formations. Before then, there was no formations, and people were just running around.
Yeah.
And then how every manager since then has changed a little bit of the formation here and there. And again, this is definitely, we're amongst people that could definitely go into all the details of every formation and what every player has to do in every single formation. But the growth of it, as players then started getting paid, or they didn't want to do just for doing it for your job, basically, because that's the structure that it was. You worked with a certain company, and then you played for that company because they asked you to play.
Yeah.
And then that grew into what it is today. And I don't know if we play so much for. I mean, I guess we do now. I mean, I guess City is a big conglomerate, right? So you're playing for your company basically, but getting paid now.
Yeah.
I guess.
But I mean, that was one of the interesting things he talks about. One of the chapters was about, or one of the essays was about the advertisements in like the 70s and 80s, and how all of a sudden like Umbro was on everything and Adidas was on everything. And that was the individual players kind of being like, this is the first time that we are really getting paid. And so it's interesting that like that structure of the players being like, well, the team isn't paying me enough,
Right.
but if we get the logo on the jerseys, then I may get a little more, and then I can get money from the shoe company. And so it was interesting how they went through the players to get that advertising onto like a lot of the kits and that kind of stuff back in the day.
Right. And then that, he did mention that in the book about the advertisement on the shirts, where now it's just a poster board. Like if you look at Liga MX, it's just, sometimes they don't even
Like
put
a
the
race car
names anymore.
driver.
Yeah, they don't even put the names on the jersey anymore, because that's that space that they can put on advertisement. So the way it's changed, and it's all commercialized. It's all it's probably even worse now. Especially we're going to see what's happening with the World Cup. The explanation there, though, I didn't see how it grew. How it's just one of those things where it almost just kind of snuck its way into the system.
Yeah, once it has that toehold, all of a sudden, then it just like explodes and is everywhere.
Before we get into that, though, I think that it's important to talk about some of like the purity sort of aspects that he lays forth in these first couple pages. One of the last ones that I really got to read here is one of my favorite quotes, and he says, "This is about, you'll know, but the ball seeks him out, knows him, meets him. She rests on the top of his boot. He caresses her and makes her speak, and in that 3 million mutes converse. The nobodies, those condemned to always be nobodies, feel they are somebodies. For a moment, by virtue of those 1-2 passes, those dribbles, those drawsies on the grass, those incredible back heel goals or overhead volleys. When he plays, the team has 12 players, 12, 15, 20.
No. It's pretty good stuff. Sorry, we got Teresa, see if she's coming back. I think she went to Maria's to charge her phone because it was dying, and we didn't hear. I didn't see her text just came in that she was here. Anyway, sorry about that. A lot of things. Let's look at that. Let's look at that growth over the time that he explains it, especially when he really covers the 1930s, which I think is when he was really like looking at certain players and certain way that the game was changing. Where the way we are today, it definitely seems like it was forming at that point. the travel, the racism that they were dealing with then, that's still racism that we're dealing with now. I mean, if you look at Vinicius Jr., what just happened
100%.
With Vinicius Jr., it doesn't seem like that ever went away from 1920s, 1915, 1890. FIFA was banning clubs that had black players on their teams. The first one was probably just 2 players that they had, and they banned that team. And I think that was an Uruguayan team or an Argentina team. I can't remember what he said in that little essay.
Yeah, the essay is it's called Blacks, and he says in 1916, the first South American Championship, Uruguay creamed Chile 4-0. The next day, the Chilean delegation insisted the match be disallowed because Uruguay had 2 Africans in a lineup.
Mm-hmm.
They were Isabelino Gradin and Juan Delgado. Gradin had scored 2 of the 4 goals, and they were like, "Oh no, this shouldn't count because they were black." And it's like,
right.
And he talks about Friedenreich too from Brazil and how he has to spend hours to straighten his hair before he can go on the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And they say that this was born a style open to fantasy, one which prefers pleasure to results. From Friedenreich onward, there have been no right angles in Brazilian soccer, just as there are none in the mountains of Rio de Janeiro or the buildings of Oscar Niemeyer.
Yeah, and then there's also the issue that you had with the Basque teams. So they primarily just have Basque players. And then that also became an issue back then. I don't think it's much of an issue now. And,
he talks about the Basque players on exile going and forming like successful teams in League Mexico.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Moving off into other areas.
Other countries.
Continents. Leaving. That was also the other one where he was explaining how some national teams for the first World Cup didn't even want to go because they didn't want to accept that it was in Latin America and that it was being held, because of Uruguay being an Olympic winner at that time. Yeah. So that's just something that, you still have people argue and fight about today. As soon as a World Cup gets picked, if it's Saudi Arabia, you have your reactions. If it's the United States, of course, people are going to have their reactions to it right now. When it was in Russia, everybody was like, hey, look, we might skip going to this tournament this year.
Qatar.
Yeah.
Like, oh my Lord. Yeah.
And then there's the issues that you do have within the tournaments themselves, like what happened in South Korea, where there's still that question of how much cheating was going on in South Korea. So it's problems that we've been dealing with. What sounds like from the inception of the game.
Yeah.
1830, 1850.
I think that's the beauty of the book, because he does a great job of being like, yes, he's talking about football, but these are human problems, and he's like, this is just representative of being a person in society, and how like this is just continued throughout time. And it's like soccer is the lingua franca, but like it represents the same problems we have in the world with, like, he talks about colonialism, he talks about the corporatism, the selling out, the racism, and like all these things. And it's like, here we are, he's writing about 1916, and it hasn't changed.
Right.
Like,
yeah, and you still had your separation of the classes as well. Yeah, because he does describe how you had certain, especially when the game first became organized and you had fans show up to the games, how the fans that were there were of a specific class. You didn't have your poor or your less well off people in the fan base.
The players were of different classes.
But
and he talks about, he has a really good thing where he says, they all have the same rights, but the players who grew up hungry and the athletes who never missed a meal don't really compete on a level playing field. But at least soccer offers a shot at social mobility. And then he goes on to say that, which is the really good one, misery trains him for soccer or for crime. From the moment of birth, that child is forced to turn his disadvantage into a weapon, and before long he learns to dribble around the rules of order, which deny him a place. He learns the tricks of every trade, and he becomes an expert in the art of pretending, surprising, breaking through where least expected, and throwing off an enemy with the hip fake or some other tune from the Rascals songbook.
Yeah.
I mean, dude.
And at the beginning, so, and even that was looked at, the way they played because of the way they learned to play.
Yeah.
The way they played was looked down upon,
Yeah.
and it wasn't accepted in certain matches, and wouldn't be allowed to be played in that manner. It's not the gentlemanly manner.
Yeah.
The English squad had perfected the long pass and the high ball, but these disinherited children from far off America didn't walk in their father's footsteps. They chose to invent a game of close passes directly to the foot with lightning changes in rhythm and high-speed dribbling.
Exactly.
I mean, you look at how he talks about like the bicycle kick, the chilena, and like why it's called the chilena, because it was out of Chile, and they were like, that wasn't something they were doing with the long throw-ins, and it's like, oh, here they like the innovation that came out. It is that idea of like, oh, here's the Brazilian player, and you hear about these stereotypes today when they talk about like, oh, this player from Brazil. You still hear those same kind of like stereotypes, and
I got one for that, dude. If we're going, just because I mean they're all just lining up perfectly. But just speaking to what you're saying, he has this quote here, and it's about this guy was a fullback. Page 73. I didn't write down his name, man. Domingo. A man of impregnable style, he was always whistling and looking over his shoulder the other way. He scorned speed. He would play in slow motion. Master of suspense, lover of leisure. The art of bringing the ball out of the box slowly, calmly, was baptized Domingada. When he finally let the ball go, he did so without ever running and without wanting to, because it saddened him to be left without her.
yeah. And that's another kind of very interesting thing is the idea of like, I'd never thought of the ball in regards to pronouns, and the fact that like
it's always a woman.
It's always a woman. Yeah. And it was talked about he talks about one of the players where he's like, oh, I've loved her and all of her sisters, and it's this very interesting idea of like the players womanizing the ball. And so you still have like, that's a different issue that he doesn't even address, but like in the idea of like the women's game, where does that fit? Like, I wonder, because he passed away in 2015, with the further development of that, if he if he wrote anything about like the women's national team or any of that, because they were successful then in the early aughts and the late 90s, and like how did he envision that? So that's to the idea of the European kind of taking that like ingenuity, because it's very interesting. He talks about the colonialism of like the Europeans bringing it to South America, and then them being like, oh, look at these crazy Englishmen, look at these crazy people. And the idea of you had the British had football, and the Americans had baseball bats. And so they're like, oh, that's why. He specifically points out like that's why in the Dominican Republic they play baseball, in the Caribbean, because that was brought
imperialism
by their colonizers.
I got that.
Like,
Meanwhile, other English words were being incorporated into the speech of Latin American countries in the Caribbean. Pitcher, catcher, innings have fallen under the U.S. influence. These countries learned to hit a ball with a rounded wooden bat. The Marines shouldered bats next to their rifles when they imposed imperial order on the region by blood and fire. Baseball became for the people of the Caribbean what soccer is for us.
Yeah. And it's in the other stories that he tells also, it's crazy how much the United States at that time was shaping what Uruguay was doing, what Argentina was doing. The world, especially South American world.
In 29, that he talks about how that took out. After it took out, the United States economy, there was dominoes really felt all over the rest of the Americas.
And food corporations down there changing the entire country to match whatever the United States needed to get done for themselves or for ourselves. And how soccer was still kind of that outlet while all that is going on, while they're literally burning fields.
Yeah. I mean, and part of it is like, he directly lived part of that. In regards to like, he had to leave Uruguay, he goes to Argentina, and then he had to get out of Argentina because I think it was the coup that unseated Perón, and then it was I think Vidal, and then he took over and was like president for like 5 years, and then Galliano had to go to Spain because he was like, oh, this guy's a communist, this guy's this guy, and he had to get out of Argentina then.
Marxist, the Marxist, and they throw that label out, and that's what you are at that point. You're that label. It's pretty crazy how all that really changed the game itself, and how the fans and how the players reacted to those changes. Because that also started kicking off the players getting paid in Italy
Social
better.
awareness a little bit.
Yeah, and then a lot of players were like, look, if you're not going to pay me, you're not going to take care of me, then I'm going to go play in Italy. And then that started changing it more to that corporate structure that we were talking about. And we'll continue talking about that here in a minute. You're listening to WLPNLP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio. You are listening to Lumpen FC, and we will be back shortly.
Yes, Gomez Peña is back. The Mix Files are back in Lumpen Radio. Now, broadcasting from both San Francisco, Califas, and Mexico City. Acompáñenos.
Thirty-second promo. 30-second promo. 30-second promo.
You've never heard anything like this before. It's Postmodern Talking with Bobby Kahn and DJ LeDuce, only on WLPN 105.5 FM.
30-second promo.
Buddy gives artists and small manufacturers in Chicago a place to showcase and sell their goods and artworks. Buddy retails to a vast audience of Chicagoans and visitors at the Chicago Cultural Center. Buddy is a shop as local as it gets. Buddy is part of the nonprofit Public Media Institute. Visit hi-buddy.org for more information.
With threats of raids and immigration enforcement in Chicago, know that we all have rights, regardless of immigration status. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to refuse entry to your home without a warrant signed by a judge. You have the right to speak to a lawyer. Do not sign anything you do not understand. The best way to defend our community is by knowing and defending our rights. This public service announcement was brought to you by Lumpen Radio.
You're listening to WLPNLP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio. You're listening to Lumpen FC. We are currently talking about Soccer in Sun and Shadow, a book by Eduardo Galeano. And it's a short essay, prose, a book. If it's something that you can kind of even skip around when you're reading it, you don't have to read it in order, actually. And it covers a lot about the history of soccer players, and the progression, the corporatizing of the game. We were just talking about what was going on in South America with the United States in the 1930s. And how would you like to continue?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was just absolutely fascinating in regards to you mentioned about like just the history of the game, but it's he covers so much of the history of the world, especially like when he does those little
Ubiquitously, right?
Yeah,
like,
those like World Cup blurbs, and he spends like 4 or 5 paragraphs being like, this is what's going on in the world. And he
the
covers,
Beatles were crushing it.
yeah, and he talks about like, hey, here's the pop culture, here's this, and then, oh, by the way, all these people died.
Right.
Or he's like, oh, here, all these people are starving. And then he'd be like, and here's the World Cup, and he would go into the game. But one of them, he's talking about the Olympics, and he talks about Andrade. He says, Europe had never seen a black man play soccer. In the 1924 Olympics, the Uruguayan Jose Leandro Andrade dazzled everyone with his exquisite moves. And as we kind of talked behind the scenes before, is the idea of these phenomenal athletes, these guys who were, oh, we've never seen this before. This is how you play the game. This amazing thing. And then the mini essay ends. Andrade died in Montevideo. Many years later, his friends had planned several benefits for him, but none of them ever came off. He died of tuberculosis in utter poverty.
Yeah.
He was black, South American, and poor. The first international idol of soccer. And it ends, and then you just have like the next topic, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, and he does that so many times where he just like kind of takes the heart out of you, where like, oh, you're like, oh man, this is such an exciting player. Like as a reader, I'm like, I've never heard of this player before. 1924 Olympics, and then you get to the end and you're like, whoa. And
Yeah, it's heavy.
yeah, and that he does a great job of just being like, giving you these mini bios and with so much like heart and sincerity behind them, and talking about like the beauty of the player, the beauty of the game, and then you're just like left like, oh, and that's how their life ended.
Follow that up with Harincha too.
Yeah.
There's no other right winger like him. In the 1958 World Cup, he was the best in his position. In 1962, the best player in the championship. But throughout his many years on the field, Harincha was more. Harincha. In the entire history of soccer, no one made people more happy.
Yeah.
And he died the same way.
I mean, I don't know. I'd like to say that Ronaldinho made a lot of people happy.
Well, this is 94.
He plays with a smile. But then again, also another player who had all the fame, all the glory, and has issues with money and bankruptcies. And what was he in prison for having a fake passport going into Uruguay, right?
Yeah.
It was going into Uruguay.
Yeah, couldn't take the smile off his face, though, even in
I mean,
prison.
come on. He's like one of the most recognizable athletes in the world.
I was talking with my buddy, and I think Ronaldinho is still my favorite, like, ever, to be honest. He's
Oh,
not-
yeah, as
he's
a player, yeah.
He is. I don't know. Maybe it's the personality.
Yeah. I mean, Ronaldinho, I mean, we're talking about, he's definitely in my top 10 list. Probably in my top 3, so definitely in my top 3. In any case, back to the book. The other things that I really like the way that he did that is the way it explained those players of those times and what impact they had.
Yes, yeah.
Like we were talking about Ronaldinho. The impact of these players, especially in those times where we weren't around. We weren't around in the 20s.
Yeah.
We weren't around in the 30s.
The 50s
But
or
they
something.
formed basically the structure that soccer is today. And not only that, changed the way, the formations had to be played, which we talked about earlier, or the way managers had to deal with them. The fact that managers were even created.
Yeah.
Originally, there wasn't even a manager.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see in this book the growth of the game on the field.
Yeah.
He also goes into a little bit about the growth in the stands, like we were talking about earlier. Originally, just the who's who of society would go to the games, and that slowly changed as the workers of the companies that these players played for, ended up going to the matches as well, which also changed
Yeah.
the way.
And that's a fascinating dynamic, and kind of future books like Drew and I were talking about was Among the Thugs, where I don't know necessarily it's a book about like technical stuff, but that shows the idea of like how unsafe, like even like in England in like the 60s and the 70s, of like where the terraces.
There's very much a cultural thing there.
Yeah, just the idea of the terraces and just jamming people into the pens,
Right.
And just the idea of like, oh well, if we flood the turnstile, it doesn't matter if we have a ticket or not. We're gonna get in regardless because they're just gonna let us all in because it's too
It's too
unsafe.
hard to control.
Yeah, to have us out on the street, and then tied in with another book about a boy. Not about a boy. What's the Arsenal one?
Fever pitch.
Fever Pitch, yeah, he wrote about a boy. Sorry, Fever Pitch, where he's like, oh, in one of these like rushes, the crowd,
A lot
like,
of terrace commentary in both.
he's like, I could die, and like how one of those books, Among the Thugs, talked about like the terrorist commentary and where there's a police character in the book being like, oh, so in the United States when they have a game, everyone has a ticket and there's a seat for every single person. And that idea of like how the game evolved from like, this is for the workers or those kind of people that like may or may not be able to afford the game, and they flood into the stadium, first come first serve, we're here, we're in the terraces, to like, no, you need to have a ticket, you need to have a seat, and like they sold it under the illusion of like, we're making the game safer for fans, which is great and all, but it also, now you're pricing the other extreme is where
It'll
it's
make
at
it more
now.
expensive for
Yes.
the fans also.
Yes. And now you have the World Cup in the United States. I am absolutely fascinated by how it will look, the games that are here in the United States versus the games in Canada and the games in Mexico City.
I mean, if we take the what was it, the Club World Cup, which we just had in the summer, I think that's going to be pretty much an example of what we're going to see in the World Cup.
Hopefully not.
Because your first games are going to be empty, because the prices are already around
Yeah.
$1,500, $1,200, and then they finally did open up. Here's your $50 ticket, and
Here's
it's
your
like
dynamic pricing.
it's like 15 seats in the nosebleeds, and that's it. That's just 15 seats. Good luck, whoever gets in there. I was hearing horror stories while my family was in town because they were getting into the draw, or they had friends that were in the draw. So they got the draw, and they had to pay for these tickets. They didn't know what game they were getting. They finally got a game that they didn't even care to go watch, which then allowed them to be in the next draw, which at that point they don't care to, now you have to travel to another city. You have the reports coming out from Foxborough, who doesn't want to sign out the permits till they get paid, because they're down, I think it's like $10 million or something like that. You have San Francisco, who doesn't know how they're going to make their money back from everything that they've invested into it. And now it seems like the system itself is pricing out the people that are holding the tournaments, or the companies, or the cities. And you can start seeing it, at the beginning here in the 30s and the 20s and the 50s, and how it's getting bigger and bigger.
Well,
then big oil gets involved.
I think you
and-
really see it in Mexico in '86.
Oh, you definitely see it in Mexico in
That's when
86,
it's just like, we are a private company.
Yeah.
We don't care to answer your questionings in these interviews. And that's Televista, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and then you're
that's-
also looking at FIFA. Exactly what's been going on right now with Donald Trump and FIFA, where Donald Trump wants to change where the venues are, and FIFA's like, dude, I don't think you understand who we are.
Yeah.
We are bigger than you.
But also in regards to just like the logistics involved of his whim of like, oh, we shouldn't have it here, and it's like, no, like this takes years of planning, like it would the Olympics, and no, you can't just like on a lark just move things where you want to move them because you're unhappy, and so. But then, still disgustingly, they gave him a massive trophy that is hands holding the globe.
It's the first ever inaugural FIFA Peace Cup.
Just like multitude of like
It's-
creepy little hands holding.
It's absolutely insane how much FIFA has tried to butter him up.
Galliano would have a field day with all
Oh, yeah,
that
with what's
stuff,
going on.
man,
I mean, at this point, though, like
he's been skeptical of them from the inception almost. So I don't
you could
think
see
would
that
be
it was already
surprising,
getting
but-
wild around the 50s and so forth. It was getting already pretty crazy, right? But I think we've reached a level of just, it's almost cartoonish.
Yeah.
The where we are at this point.
While we're still in the 50s, let me give a shout out to my guy DiStefano, because I think he was one of the greatest players to never actually play in the World Cup. He was Argentinian, and then he was also an incredible star for Real Madrid for a decade. But here's his Galliano's quote. He never stood still, holding his head high. He could see the entire playing field and cross it at a gallop to pry open the defense and launch the attack. He was there at the beginning, the during, and the end of every scoring play. He scored goals of all colors.
Yeah, and DiStefano is an amazing player. Like,
And he's
some of the stuff.
he's on
some of the
YouTube. That's
yeah.
when you start to be able to actually go look.
You
up
can
some of
see the
these
black and white
guys.
videos,
You can
yeah.
he's not. You can see his stuff. So
Yeah.
this is sort of also. It's grainy, but DiStefano's footage is pretty ready
Yeah.
available, and I encourage anybody to go out there and watch it. It's fairly timeless.
Yeah.
The guy was a chain smoker apparently.
Well, I mean, you're up until basically up until the 80s, maybe even in the early 90s, you still had those players who were like,
We'll get to Cruyff.
But who was the first? Because I think Barcelona was doing it before Wenger was with like Arsenal in regards to like, we are going to enforce what you eat. We're going to enforce how you train.
I think you're right, but I think it was really Wenger was the one that pioneered a whole lot of it. The diet, almost dietitian.
well, he
sort of
brought
thing.
in
He perfected
the sports scientists. He
Yes.
brought in like some of the original sports scientists from the United States, because in the United States, the NFL already had your first few sports scientists, and the OTC, the Olympic Committee here, the training center here, already had those sports scientists. And that's like, you're looking at early 90s when sports science really started taking off.
The idea of like Gatorade, this
Yeah.
is a thing that will enhance your performance.
He came out of Monaco. He was pretty well funded there, I assume. And they put some money into the sports science that they were doing at that place, and the rest is history.
Yeah, no, but up until then, like, some of these players were like, they spent their time in brothels, they spent their time at the bar.
Shots out to Orange.
Some of them, what was it? The one story where they actually asked the player to, hey, stop partying so much, and he couldn't play.
Oh,
Like,
he keeps it real with the
he didn't
Brazilians in
enjoy.
here,
He didn't
you
enjoy
know.
playing, and they're like, you know what? I'm just gonna go back to partying, and then he started scoring again.
That might have been Romario.
I can't remember. Well,
I think that's that could have been.
no,
a
this was one of the earlier.
But that's the thing that goes back to that, like,
Mario had to deal with Barcelona. and
yeah,
all
that
those
stereotype
regards.
of the Brazilians of like, well, you know, they like to party, they like to stay out late, and
But not just that. Team Mexico's notorious for, like, oh, well, we won the first, we got out of the group stage. Let's throw a huge party. And then, they play the next round
Yeah.
pretty hungover.
they're like, when do we play again? 3 days? We can do a 2-day hangover.
We could do
yeah.
it 2 day. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
can do that.
And then we'll be fine. It'll work out.
Yeah.
I got one more from the 50s. Yashin, the Russian goalkeeper. They called him the Spider because he only wore black. He liked to stop thundering blasts with his single claw-like hand that trapped and shredded any projectile. While his body remained motionless like a rock, he could deflect the ball with a glance.
Yeah. And that's also something I didn't know. I didn't know that early on, only the referee and the goalies wore black. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Until
he
mentioned that.
mentions how they finally got him to change color. Yeah. He's got some. His referee quotes from the beginning of the book are great, too. Everything he's got in here. is
Yeah,
so
no,
good.
It's pretty good.
It's the if you're a lover of the game in any aspect, it just has so much history.
Oh, yeah.
The losers
Yeah.
owe their loss to him and the winners triumph in spite of him. Scapegoat for every error, cause of every misfortune. The fans would have to invent him if he didn't already exist. The more they hate him, the more they need him.
Yeah.
The referee.
The referee, yeah.
Yeah.
which holds true today. And actually, it's probably gotten even crazier today now that, as we're talking about the corporatization of it, the gambling that's going on, the referees that are placing bets on the games that
Yeah.
they're supposed to not be refereeing. Now you have referees who can't referee certain teams or certain clubs because we already know, hey, they already hate that club, or they are part of that club in one way or the other, or they've been following that club since they were little children. So we can't allow them to be part of anything that's going on the field with that club.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much gotten to the point where,
And not to mention that, but he follows up the referee when he starts talking about the managers, which is also another timeless quote where he says, "The machinery of spectacle grinds up everything in its path. Nothing lasts very long, and the manager is as disposable as any other product of consumer society. Today, the crowd screams, 'Never die.' Next Sunday, they invite him to kill himself."
and that's Mourinho.
it in a
Mourinho's
nutshell.
a perfect example.
What have you done for me lately?
I mean, you look at the Tottenham Forest where they've just
Chelsea.
grinding through managers. Just
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's and that's, you have to ask, like, is that even a fix at this point? Because the problem, if you've gone through what's Tottenham's gone through 8 and 10 years, I think, or 8 and 10 seasons.
More than Chelsea?
Yeah, I think more than Chelsea. I think so. You're looking at 8 and 10, and you're still
Yeah, I guess
where
Chelsea
you
had
are. Maybe it's not the managers. Maybe it's not the managers.
Yeah.
It might be your program. It might be your players.
They have so many players.
They do. But that's how you do the bankroll thing.
Yeah.
Keep them all in contract.
You just keep
Corner the
You
market.
just keep loaning them out. I mean, it goes back to it's one of the very first essays where he's just talking about the game itself, soccer, and he says, the technocracy of professional sport has managed to impose a soccer of lightning speed and brute strength, a soccer that negates joy, kills fantasy, and outlaws daring. Luckily, on the field, you can still see, even if only once in a long while, some insolent rascal who sets aside the script and commits the blunder of dribbling past the entire opposing side, the referee, the crowd in the stands, all for the carnal delight of embracing the forbidden adventure of freedom. It's just this beautiful writing about, like,
He was 30 years ahead of his time on that. Think about how much more systematic things are since 1994.
Yeah.
Like the kind of soccer they were playing then I'm not gonna say it's night and day, but there was so much more
He
creativity.
opens that
right?
essay. The translation
On
in
the highest
English.
levels.
Yeah, the translation in English is the sad. He's like the sad voyage from beauty to duty, and it's like you know, this is your role. Stick to your role. This is the system. Stick to your system.
He's just very prophetic, man, in his writing. And there's another really beautiful piece that he wrote called the Pibe, which is translated to the flea. And I thought it was in this book, but it's not. And what it is it's basically the foretelling of Maradona in particular.
Yeah.
I mean, he almost picks the guy's neighborhood, you know?
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah, he in one of the essays he talks about the idea of like kind of I feel like in the States there's this like, oh, back in the day you would have like your Jimi Hendrix or this musician, people that like would go through a terrible kind of like upbringing and all that would inform their music, and he talks about the poverty informing.
Absolutely. And I got one for that. He says, good soccer players need not be tight and sculpted by Michelangelo, and soccer skill is much more important than shape, and in many cases, skill is the art of turning limitations into virtue.
Yeah, and I think that's where your managers are going to be playing their roles. So there was also the mention early on, there was a manager that he spoke about, like in the 20s, 30s, that the manager wanted each player to be able to play every position.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a formation. We have a 110. So that's come full circle. And then you had Cruyff, who kind of had the same idea of like total football, total football. And then you have your managers like Pep Guardiola, originally Ancelotti, Jose Mourinho, where this is your job.
You just get
And
yelled
if you're
at.
not going to do your job, you're gonna ride pine, buddy, and that's the way it's gonna be. And they'll shuffle through players till they get that one player that can do what they want them to do. And then you look at other managers who aren't as rigid in their systems. I think Klopp was one of those where he had that perfect mix of like, okay, we have to do this from the midfield, but from here on, play. Do what you can do.
Very magnetic in his own right. I think he sort of manifested some of that energy for those players.
Yeah, I think Klopp is one of those.
It was a good time for us.
Ancelotti with Real Madrid, I think, was more that, hey, guys, play, dance, do what you do, and we'll be fine. And it worked great for a couple of years, and then kind of started falling off at the end there.
He's more of a white glove approach, I think.
Yeah, a manager, what is it? Fergie. Fergie is a perfect example of like, well, I need you to defend. You're a defender. But if you're gonna score, you know, go ahead. Get upfield.
If you wanna go up, go up. But make sure you come back on that counter.
Make sure you get back.
There might be a little bit something to be said about those two guys having not played, whereas Pep played, and Fergie and Klopp. Well, I guess Klopp did play a little bit, but
Klopp did play. He just said he was horrible.
Yeah,
I haven't seen video of him. I want to see video of him play. There is some video where I've seen video of him on a practice field where he's practicing. And we've seen it on the sideline. He does have a touch. He's got skill sets,
I'm
like,
sure.
without a doubt.
He was in
the pros.
Second league or first league.
Yeah.
I mean, he was.
But he's like, nah, I was awful.
But you can kind of talk about like the
by what standard though?
Exactly right.
There is that kind of like cliche of the manager that becomes a good manager was never a great player in the first place.
Sometimes it helps, I think.
Yeah, they had to be the smart hustle
More
player.
empathetic, too.
Yeah, on the field rather than like the naturally gifted, the obscenely talented. They had to be like the thinking person on the field, and that's how they ended up becoming a manager more often than not.
And then you have your other managers that are just and then you got some of those managers that are just they understand the game.
Yeah,
they get it, but they've never played.
And
never once. And you can tell when they touch the ball, like they actually go down and pick it up. They don't kick it back.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that there's excellent examples in both directions, right? So you've got guys that, like Brian Clough was one of my favorite managers, and he was great, but he kind of blew out. But he played at a very extremely high level, and so did, I would say, Ancelotti.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of guys that Fergie never played.
Yeah.
He won as much or more than anybody. So
the issue like with Cruyff though,
Fergie was managing a bar before he took over.
Exactly. The thing with Cruyff though is that the system that he did create, well, he didn't create it, but the system that he advanced and pushed forward, which is the tiki taka, changed the world of soccer. Then you had teams all over the world trying to copy that system and try to push that system.
And now it's an active rebellion against it, right?
And well, because
or it's getting
the one-
smashed down, I think is what it is.
yeah, I think the
More
one big
accurate,
issue with
huh?
Tiki Taka is that you have to
freedom.
have those but you have to have those specific players that have those skill sets, and that's rare. People that can make a
Stir the drink in multiple ways.
Yeah.
keep that 100% passing rate, complete every pass, but only touch the ball once.
Yeah.
And everybody has to know what position they're in, how the motions are played, the way you're playing your angles. And I don't think that's something that's easily taught.
I mean,
so that's why you had to have kids grow up with each other playing that system,
Yeah.
like a la Mesilla.
It's grinded out of everybody.
Yeah. And then now you don't see it as much anymore. And then, the high press eventually broke that down.
At least in the Premier League. I think the other leagues, there's a lot more freedom.
But-
We're
but-
kind of talking
Well,
about
it's what started defeating Barcelona's tiki taka was the high press.
Yeah.
Teams were like, all right, well then I'm going to hit you on your side of the field and I'll let you come up on the
Yeah.
field. So,
Yeah. But then you had, I mean, you look at Real Madrid, Toni Kroos, and like the way he would open up space with passes. You have that.
They miss him.
we miss a lot of players.
Yeah, but you like so many of those the teams that are doing really well all have those great kind of midfielders that can
It's essential, yeah.
Yeah, do the ticky, but then they have
Chicago
that
Fire
ability
need
to
one.
open up space and
Speaking of midfields.
I think Franco kind of was
Yeah.
attempting to do that role till I think he had ACL or MCL, and he won't be back till like July or something like
Yeah,
that.
I
for
mean,
the
an
Fire.
ACL is a tough one, yeah. But usually you can come back pretty good from those. But the managers he explains, or the way he explains these managers coming up in this book, it seems like it's like, like everything. It's the changing of those times, the changing of the guards. But there was the one story about, one that was a player manager, and, well, he did both.
Yeah.
It's interesting because the one thing that I did see is that issue where the corporatizing of it becomes one of those things where, like, we used to hold on to our managers forever. Now it's just like, okay, look, you lost 2 games, man. You got to go.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's one of those things where you have to have eyeballs at all times watching your club to make that revenue. And if you're not winning, you're not going to have the eyeballs watching your club. Or you're going to have eyeballs that just complain all the time about your club.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Reddit.
I mean, and part of that, and I very much wonder if he were writing today, going into this World Cup, what would be the things that he would be intrigued by or saddened by?
That's a good question.
In regards to like the betting aspect that we touched on earlier, or the idea of like the corporatization of the game, or the continuation of like the ignoring of like human rights and like.
I don't think he'd be able to get past FIFA giving Trump the Nobel Peace Prize, or the prize,
Yeah,
the Peace
yeah.
Prize,
Well, the made-up
FIFA
prize.
Peace Prize.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I think that at this point, it's like I said, it's gotten cartoon, it's gotten clownish. It's so over the top at this point. Even as a modern fan, like I've been watching it since I was a kid. I've watched every World Cup, almost every match since I was a kid. Last year, I kind of caught some games. I didn't catch them. It's one of the not last year. Sorry, last World Cup was the last one where I was like, okay, this is getting a little out of control. But whatever, I'll watch. From this point on. Now with the expansion, we have a bunch of teams that. I'm sorry. I know you did what you had to do to qualify, but there's just certain. I don't care. I don't care about what was it, Saint. There was some Saint. Something I didn't even know it was a country.
Yeah.
Straight up didn't even know it was a country. They qualified or they're qualifying, and I'm not going to pay $1,200. I really wanted to go watch a match. It's been on my bucket list to go watch
Yeah.
a FIFA match.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which one. I'm not paying $1,200 to do that.
Yeah.
It's not. I'd rather just take the trip and go run with the Bulls again. Put that second on my bucket list. It's just it's gotten out of control. So much so that you have to give the president a fake prize. You made it up. You made it up the week before to give it to him. And it wasn't just that one. Also, it was the medal. Then there was the medal. That was an interesting situation.
Are we talking about the World Cup, Club World Cup, where he took the medal?
Oh,
one?
that is also fantastic.
Yeah,
where
that was- he's just like-
Palmer. Even Palmer's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Man, this is mine now.
Yeah.
It's such a crazy move.
And I forget who they identified. They're like, oh, that was his like somebody that used to be on Chelsea and wasn't there anymore for that. And they were like, that was his medal.
So he
like
just
that
took
was,
it?
Yeah. And Trump was like, there's an extra medal here. It must be for me. And he just put it in his pocket. Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. I think what he would feel now, this writer, Eduardo, would probably not know what to do with this. But in the book, he loves both sides. He loves both sides. He loves the pain. It's the sun and shadow. He loves the pain of the game, and he loves the beauty of the game.
Sure.
And he seems to be very fair with both. But I think at this point, you're not even looking. It's so
There is no darkness
circus.
without
It's so
light,
much.
I think.
It's so much of a circus at this point. You're listening to WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio. You are listening to Lumpen FC. We are currently talking about Soccer in Sun and Shadow, a book written by Eduardo Galeano. And it's a lot of proses and poems and short observations about soccer and soccer since its inception. The very beginning in 18.
He goes back. He says 5,000 years ago.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He does the
jugglers in
historical
China.
run.
He's like,
Yeah.
yep. It started in China, just like most of things.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it wasn't until England put rules to the game, which they spun off from, I guess it was rugby, right?
That's a good question, but
Yeah, because they spun off where you couldn't touch it with your hands. So I'm assuming it was spinning off of a rugby or that type of game.
mid 1800s.
Exactly. His observations, though, especially about like what it would be like today. What would you write other than maybe jokes about the situation that we're in?
He's a very funny guy.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure he would find a lot of humor in these situations. It would be, Adrian, it would be scathing at this point.
Yeah.
Think about how.
But he's not negative in this
He's
book.
not.
He's not negative.
That's not true. He is negative.
But he tells you, okay, this is the negative side of it, but
It's
this is
sun
what it
and
is.
shadow, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like he's going to celebrate it, but at the same time, he's going to tell you exactly what it is. He's going to keep it real.
Yeah.
So, really, I got to tell you, man, it gets pretty dark toward. I mean, we're in the 50s or 60s here.
Yeah.
Because we can keep going, and we will. And he starts to get very critical of it. Of the institutionalization of
Well, it starts to
FIFA itself
yeah.
and sports itself in general. At this point, 30 years, I mean,
well, look at where we ended up with FIFA. We ended up with Sepp Blatter. We ended up with the whole situation of basically pay to play. The way the academy programs have gone worldwide. In the United States, we're running into a big problem right now with all youth sports because it's all being taken up basically by, what are those groups called? Black Bear is big into hockey, from what I was watching on one of the episodes of in news, where it's these corporate groups taking over youth sports, and you're not really producing players. You're there for the money. You're there for the revenue.
Yeah.
FIFA has gotten, in my opinion, a little bit out of control. And they always say that it's for the sake of, this club or because the lower clubs or the lower nations need to be a part of it. If I had to ask myself, the FIFA, do they really care about, a 5th division club in who knows where? No, they don't care. They don't care if they make money or if they survive. It's just a money grab at this point, and I think that's where he would probably just the cynicism would have to kick in at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking at a whole new generation from what he's writing about, and I don't think there's anybody in their right mind that's going to go ahead and say that this generation is more pure than the last. That's just impossible.
No,
sadly,
it's not.
But
the players
purity exists.
The players that we produce now. I mean, simply just on the capability of what we said, sports science. I mean, just on that alone, they obviously play longer. We don't have those 40-year-olds that, you're not talking about a 40-year-old playing in the 30s, 40s, right? Like, they're not going to make it to 40. The injuries, you recover from injuries now. You blow an ACL, you're probably going to make it back. It might be a year, but you're probably going to make it back.
And still play.
If you're ACL, and still play, at a pro level. In the 30s, 40s, 50s, you blew an ACL. You may not be. You might lose the leg. You're definitely not going to walk without a limp.
Well, a little bit
at that point,
might die.
So all that has changed. The medicine, the science behind it. You got players who sleep in hyperbaric chambers, or they turn an entire room into a hyperbaric chamber to live in. That didn't exist back then. So I think the caliber of the player has grown with the game as well. But now it's the players even know themselves that they might make more or they might be bigger if they have a good Instagram following, or if they have a good Facebook hit, or more win double their income by being able to get the advertisers on their own and not have to go through FIFA and not have to go through Arsenal or through whoever their owner basically is at that point. And I think those things would probably disillusion him a bit at this point.
Oh, quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he would be a fan of social media, to be completely honest. I don't think he's the kind of guy that is looking for, like Jamie Trecker said, like hot takes.
Yeah.
He's very introspective, sort of soulful dude. I just
Well, yeah,
I don't see him vibing much with this new generation.
Yeah,
of sports
I think
coverage.
he would appreciate social media in regards to like what's going on in
The access
in China, the access, or like the Arab Spring, where like people are able to communicate and change things.
I think he would definitely vibe with the fan bases.
Yes,
that might be true. Yeah,
but
I think that's true.
The vast majority of
But that's just not what the vast majority of you're getting exposed to is. But that said, I mean, look, you put your filter on, you can find what you want to find.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but it's interesting the thing about the things that he would address now, because like one of the last ones he talks about, one of my favorite parts is, I think this is the last World Cup he did was 2010. Yeah, 2010 World Cup.
He's got a little excerpt for them.
Yeah, and he does, and he has, he's got several, because this was like his last, like as he was writing, and he talks about Luis Suarez, and he says the best save of the tournament was the work of a goal scorer, not a goalkeeper. Uruguayan striker Luis Suarez, standing on the goal line in the final minute of a decisive match, blocked the slippery ball with both hands. A goal would have taken his country out of the cup. Thanks to his act of patriotic lunacy, Suarez was sent packing, but Uruguay was not. Yeah, and
I remember that.
Yeah,
I also read a thing that said at one point you were more likely to get bitten by Luis Suarez than a shark.
Yeah, than a great white. Yeah,
if you were playing in 2008, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you played in if you play in the MLS now, there's a really good chance, even if you are on his team, because he bit, I forget who it was, Iniesta or somebody.
Yeah.
He bit him on the hand last year.
He bit Jordi Alba, I thought.
Jordi Alba.
Okay, accidentally.
Yeah. It wasn't accidentally.
It wasn't accidentally.
It was
unintentionally.
Like, hey, calm down, Louis, and he turned and just chomped because that's his first instinct. It's like
Hilarious.
Yeah.
We could write a book just on Suarez alone.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would be an amazing book to read. So from the perspective of, if we took his perspective, what do we think the game in the future is going to be like? Like, how is this going to grow? How is this going to change? And how are we going to allow it to change? As it is already, like, we already have MLS pushing the ticket prices up.
Yep.
Every year they go up. Yeah, it's a couple bucks.
Dude.
But in 10 years, it's going to be up $100 from where we started. You know?
He's got this from 40 years ago where he says, who ran the 86 World Cup? The Mexican Soccer Federation? No. Please. It was the intermediaries. It was run by Guillermo Canedo, vice president of Televisa, and the president of the company's international network.
Yeah.
This World Cup belonged to Televisa, the private monopoly that owns the free time of all Mexicans and also owns Mexican soccer, and nothing could have been more important than money.
Yeah.
This is 40 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just more of the same, obviously.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But it goes to that idea of like, what will we as fans tolerate, you know, in the game? And there, you think about like the MLS versus Premier League, for instance, and MLS is much more affordable for now, and because it's still a growing league, ridiculously at 32 teams now. But it's like that's enough to spread out the talent, have that kind of parity that it seems every like sporting association desires, and that goes. We have parity. You can go from worst to first, and then
the German league is really affordable though.
Okay.
The German league is actually really affordable.
What do you mean, like ticket prices?
Yeah, ticket prices.
Because it's
and
mostly the 51%.
the 51% rule. Yeah. So from what
Yes,
Sebastian
you
was
don't
telling me-
say. They're not owned by
from
multi-corporations.
yeah, exactly. They're owned by the people,
State
right?
governments and
I
so
mean, other than Bayern, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
So I mean, and so maybe in the future that is one of the answers.
well, Red Bull is not. That's right. There's one.
Well, but that's the thing, though. So we are at that pivot point as it is. Sorry to cut you off. We're at that pivot point right now because the way Citigroup is taking over, the way Red Bull is taking over, the way, Liga MX on its own, like Televisa, that on its own, that's already been solidified for a long time.
That's one of the longest-standing monopolies.
In MLS, it's a franchise system, so we're already out.
Yeah.
There's no like the way we get treated is the way we get treated in MLS, and that's how it is. And you're a wallet that we're trying to empty every weekend, and that's the goal. And they do a great job at it. Jerseys $200, soda $8, $9, $10, a beer $16, parking $50.
Wait. Here's the New Jersey.
Here's
For
the New
this-
Jersey.
yeah, here's
Oh,
the
and
New
the
Jersey.
third jersey.
Go
You
wait,
get
go
both.
wait in line at Harrison Park.
$60, $80 scarves, and then your ticket. So, which the ticket is probably at this point as a supporters group, probably the cheaper end
For the
of all that.
MLS,
For now, but every year it goes up.
Yeah.
Every year goes up, and then even if you're
And they make it harder to get too.
yeah, and then in some leagues you have that standardization of where okay, you bought in as a supporter this many years ago, you're going to pay that ticket price up until 10 years, 15 years. You're grandfathered in to a certain specific time or forever, whatever it may be per league. Here it's like, this year it goes up 6, next year it goes up 7, then it's going to go up another 8. Plus, please give us $2 billion for a stadium.
I mean,
Looking at you, Bears.
yeah. So I mean, that's a direct line because I was thinking the same thing you were about. A different kind of football in regards to like, oh no, give us this tax certainty. It's like, what you mean by tax certainty? It's a lovely euphemism for being like, we want to pay less taxes.
Yeah.
We want to have this property, and we won't pay for it. We won't, like, you have your house or wherever it is, and the taxes that are paid on that, we want to pay much less than that.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're already billionaires. What do you,
Yeah. And not just that, it's also, and you're going to pay for part of the stadium as well. We'll put up a little bit, but you're going to put up a bit too.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to fix the infrastructure to get to the stadium because, we're not going to build roads. That's not ours. We're billionaires. We don't build roads. We don't build parking lots. That's you. And then it basically leave the responsibility on us.
Yeah.
And FIFA is a master at that. They literally have countries bid to say, hey, we'll build infrastructure for you. We'll build stadiums for you. We'll build them out in the jungles if you want. Totally happened.
Yeah.
Look it up, Brazil. That stadium is now empty.
Yeah.
It was a bird sanctuary now.
They call them white.
It's a bird sanctuary.
White elephants.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it's in the middle of the jungle.
Yeah. Middle of nowhere.
But that's not just the World Cup. The Olympics. There's a lot of different.
Yeah. It was sports.
Yeah.
Period. I think we're at a point where that just needs to end, and then that's where we are as a fan base. And as a fan base, as he says in this book, we're the ones that are yelling, throwing things, burning things. How do we change? How do we look at towards the future at this point with City, Red Bull, and all the other groups that are forming right now, Fenway Group running amok at this point?
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of an unanswerable question because the only thing off top of mind is like the people have to create their own new thing that is not, and then when you create that new thing, you have to prevent it from some guy coming into the room and going like, hey, should we charge prices at the door? Should we charge ticket price at the door? And that starts the whole chain.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Does he talk later about the youth academies? 'Cause I didn't get.
He
all
does
the way
not.
through the
No.
book.
I think the academies is very much.
That's post '94, really. I mean, not essentially like every team had their youth academies,
Yeah.
but the real birth of that is sort of a new, more or less new phenomenon. When you start thinking about the incredibly successful like Clairefontaine, they are about '94 is when they kind of come onto the scene. So. Yeah.
How old is La Masia? La Masia.
La Masia is Barcelona's academy, so
Yeah.
they've probably been around for quite some
I
time.
think they've been around for a while.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
I think in Europe the academy programs
Yeah.
have been around for a while. I don't know about South America though.
But I think very much like I don't think that's what like in regards to what he was looking at. that would be something, that he would need to look at now, because it feels suspiciously like everyone criticizes, American football and the youth sports here, and how much it costs, and the clubs and the traveling teams and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, but when I hear what's described over there, I'm very much like, it sounds similar. It doesn't sound 100% the same, but it sounds very similar to what's happening here in regards to like the level of commitment that you have to have, and the finances involved. And if you don't show up for this game, then there's this penalty, and it's usually financial along with something else. And that was one of the funny stories to come out of the Olympics that I heard at least 3 times was it Norway, and how their sports practices are way different from like the rest of, Europe and the United States in regards to like, no, don't specialize. Don't lock yourself into one sport.
They're very well funded also.
Yeah,
Which
the
helps.
youth sports are super well funded.
Yeah, but they're
They kill the Winter Olympics.
but that's the thing is, they're well funded, but it isn't toward one thing.
Right.
It is like, here's this money, and like the idea of like in the United States of like with Title IX, and the idea of like, oh, the men's sports get all this stuff, how come the women's sports don't get this stuff?
Right.
And how come they don't have these facilities? And you see that the glaring example today of like U.S. hockey, and how that was talked about once again regarding our president. And yeah, and it's like, oh, why is everything got to be political? And say, because you have a political
sports
figure.
are politics.
Yeah,
And sports are politics.
Exactly. And it's like,
I don't know. I think it started with baseball, and I know we're going off on a tangent. I think it started off with baseball, where you had the athletes were a union. They were trying to get better pay, get better travel accommodations, get better care from the owners. And I think it's one of those things where with baseball it first started, from what I remember reading and looking at. The owners didn't want it to become a political thing. They didn't want to get anyone involved. But then in the end, the owners are the ones that ended up getting Congress involved to get the players to go back to play. So sports, and I know it's ingrained in us since we were kids here in the United States, that we don't want politics in our sports. We don't want politics in our sports. That's a lie. It is a myth. It's not real.
It's a money-making enterprise from go.
Yeah, and then from day, it's you have politics in your sports every day, especially in your professional sports, collegiate sports.
Yeah.
NCAA ran all the college sports for the most part, upper-level college sports, for decades upon decades, and nobody questioned it because nobody wanted to get involved in the politics of it. And on top of which, it's billions and billions and billions of dollars. I mean, NCAA probably had, so it was trillions of dollars once, up until the 2000s, early, mid-2000s. The amount of revenue they were creating is insane, and nobody ever questioned it.
Yep.
No, well, the players did.
The players did. I mean, but,
and then they got banned and thrown out and
you look at
ostracized.
the same thing we talk about in Galliano's book about like, oh, you have 2 black players on your team. This win shouldn't count. And you look at the same thing in NCAA with basketball, and of like, oh, you have this many on your, and the politics was there back then. The racism was there back then, and it's
and that hasn't changed. And I think that's probably one of the things where you said at the end there, Drew, that as the book goes on, because I haven't gotten to the last chapters, he does tend to get a little bit more cynical, a little bit darker about it.
And I think it starts when he starts talking about Maradona. So I've got some quotes about that. I think that he really sort of uses him as like a touching point for his fighting for maybe players' rights and things like that. And I got some pretty good quotes from that era.
I mean, to this day, you're looking at the U.S. women's soccer fighting for their pay, fighting for their equality, fighting for the capability to make their money, and that was just now, just in the last decade.
Yeah, I mean, there's a chapter called near the end called "They Don't Count." And this is about the 90s. And at the end of 1994, Maradona, Stoichkov, Bebeto, and he lists all these. Hugo Sanchez and other players started organizing the International Soccer Players Union, and about like going up against FIFA and all of that, and how at the end of this, it just kind of all fizzled out.
Maradona said in 1986, and I don't have this exact quote, but he was talking about having to play the games at the heat of the middle of the day so that it would be optimal for European time zones. And he was like, there are no shadows above us. We were playing in 100-degree weather. And so that's, I mean, I think, you know, if there's anybody that I would say is more sort of revered and then also a little bit more criticized than anybody else in this book, it's Maradona.
Yeah.
So the stuff
Which is hilarious, though, because he was fighting for that, 30 years ago, 20 years ago or so. And now it's like, oh, no, give him a water break because we can put a commercial during the water break and we can monetize it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But he said this about Diego. He says, Maradona never used stimulants before matches to stretch the limits of his body. It is true that he was into cocaine, but only at sad parties where he wanted to forget or be forgotten, because he was cornered by glory and he couldn't live without the fame that wouldn't allow him to live. He played better than anyone else in spite of the cocaine, not because of it.
Which is a misuse of if you want to be if you want to be forgotten at a party, that kind of upper is not the way
it's
to
not
go.
gonna. You're
That'll
gonna be
make
the
you-
show. You're gonna be the show.
You end up becoming the life of that party.
But there's more, though, for Maradona. I just got to get these couple other ones in here. He says, he's not quick. He's more like a short-legged bull, but he carries the ball sewn to his foot, and he's got eyes all over his body. His acrobatics light up the field. He can win a match with a thunderous blast with his back to the goal, or with an impossible pass from far off when he's corralled by thousands of enemy legs. And no one can stop him when he decides to dribble upfield. And the one last one. In the frigid soccer of the end of this century, which detests, defeats, and forbids all fun, Maradona was one of the few who proved fantasy can be efficient.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, there's other, I was kind of saving that for the end, but that's really, you know, I think that sums up his pessimism a little bit, you know, but also his optimism too. So he's just a very realistic about everything.
Yeah, with Maradona, you're taking a spoonful of good and a spoonful of bad all at once. But then you also had your other players who I thought one of the players that always flies under the radar and nobody ever really tells is Hugo Sanchez.
Yeah,
well, I think is probably one of the most brilliant soccer players.
He's in here too for sure, except it's different. It's the Mexican reporters that are traveling to Serbia during that ethnic cleansing, and they get corralled by military officers and with guns to their head, and basically. And they don't even have the time to pull out their passports, but they start yelling, Hugo Sanchez, we're Mexican, and recognize them. Yeah, and it's I didn't read up. He slept on.
He's what?
He slept on for sure.
Yeah, he flies under the radar a lot with a lot of players, and then when people are like, "Oh, top 10 list," and he's never there, I'm like, "No, dude, you're missing Hugo Sanchez."
And also in the Spanish leagues too.
Yeah. He's one of
Prolific
Real Madrid's
player.
greatest players, and even at Real Madrid, you kind of like don't really hear him mentioned a whole lot. And it's just like, well, you had Hugo Sanchez on your team. Like, it's pretty insane. One of the things that he does great in this book is actually talk about players and gives you that visual, because some of these players, God, I never saw them play. It was 1920, 1930, 1940, 1950.
And keep in mind, a lot of them he didn't see play. Like he was,
that's true.
Yeah. He was born in like the 40s, and so he's describing stuff that he's heard.
Yeah, and to captivate that, the way he's describing some of these players, it's just like, oh wow, like that's pretty insane. I wouldn't think the touch and how they touch the ball and how they caress it. How the standing, how one of the players would stand on the ball, which is actually a thing now that don't do in futsal, because apparently it's outlawed in futsal. But you'll see players. Is it outlawed in?
I think it is too. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a red card, right?
I don't know if it's a red card. I think it's at least a yellow card. Yeah.
Like 2 feet.
Yeah. So like you stand up on the ball because you're taunting. Yeah.
Because like you can't take it. Yeah.
And in futsal, I don't know if it's a card or you get thrown out immediately, but the defenders. The enforcers are going to let you know. Are you going to do that?
Yeah.
All right. You might be missing an ACL in a minute.
but I mean, and part of that goes back to the longing of, you know, the the like 90s era or like the late 80s era, that like Roy Keane era.
Yeah, that's my favorite era, man. I love soccer in the 90s.
And like the you cannot walk down the tunnel without like Keane and Vieira like, you know, tearing at each other. And nowadays it's like, oh, can I get your jersey? Can I have your kit? Can we swap? You know, oh, Mr. Messi, can I? You know, it's like this guy just ran up and down you roughshod for 90 minutes, and now you're gonna.
The intensity isn't there like it used to be. It's a generational thing, you know. I think. I don't know. There's a lot of factors, but people got a lot more going on. There's brands, there's, you know, third parties, there's all these different things.
And so it begs the question of like, what is good sportsmanship and what is good gamesmanship in regards to like the game that we want to see, where like Thierry Henry, where there's this famous video of him like standing with his kids in front of the statue outside the Emirates.
I don't like Tottenham.
And it's like
Is that
why,
the one?
yeah. Why do you have that face, Daddy? And he's like, because I hate Tottenham. I don't like Tottenham. You know.
Yeah.
And like
an actual hatred.
Yeah.
It's one of the things also, and then I noticed what happened with Vinny, right? The issue that happened at Benfica, where Vinny and Mbappe are both saying that racial slurs were said to Vinny, which is actually a common thing that happens to Vinny in soccer because of the backstory that's going on there.
They got some pretty isolated videos.
No, it's pretty insane, and he's been a victim a lot, and it doesn't make. I mean, a lot of players and a lot of fans know that it irks him, know that it gets him, and he doesn't play well once it really gets him worked up. So I guess they use it as a weapon, which is disgusting. But one of the things that you don't see now is exactly what we were just talking about. And I was talking to this about with Jamie J. Had that happened and Ramos was there or Pepe was there, whoever said that, all right, wait till there's a jump ball.
Yeah.
You're going to be missing teeth, buddy.
Yeah.
That elbow's going to hit you. You know, and
Ramos will break your
it would be
collarbone.
solved. It would, you can't. I mean, other than Eric Cantona, you can't go 2-footed into the stands, right? Especially nowadays. But on the field, all right, those enforcers don't exist anymore.
Yeah,
and that's that 90s. And that's, you know, if I were to describe the type of player,
Well, technically, those guys
like,
are still in the league. Both of them, Pepe and Ramos, are still both playing. But
well, Ramos is a Liga MX. But that allowance is, I don't know if Pepe's still playing. Is he still playing?
I thought he was at
Portugal?
I gotta look.
Anyways, we'll look it up.
He's like,
if I had to describe a player like Eduardo does in this book, that would be the one that I focus, those defenders. And to this day, and people laugh at me, but whenever anybody says, hey, what's your top 5? What's your top 10? I'll always put Vinny Jones in there because Vinny Jones was that character, that enforcer, was like, I don't care who you are. This is my box. This is my field.
Yeah.
I'm only allowing you to be on it.
Yep.
And oh man, I miss the 90s.
Pepe did retire. My bad.
Yeah,
2024.
Yeah. I think he was the last one he was playing.
Ramos
was
is at Monterrey though, right?
Ramos was at Monterrey. I don't know if he re-signed contract or not, but he was just at Monterrey last season. I don't know if he re-signed.
But it's interesting. Is like what about the game changed that style, that intensity, like is now
the owners. Well, the marketing game. They don't want to see that. They don't want that because it's not marketable. It's not sellable. It's not, the violence is not something that Doritos is going to get behind or Coca-Cola is going to get behind. So if you do something like that, you're going to take that red and you're going to take the 4-game, 5-game, 6-game, whatever they add on afterwards because you did it. I mean, look at what happened to Rudiger, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Rudiger lost his mind, but that was a whole other situation. But that was what? He was out 2 months, 3 months?
He was anti-ice. He was.
Oh, he was very anti-ice. He lost his mind. But they banned, he was suspended, what? I think it was 2 months.
I think, yeah.
2 or 3 months.
Was
he was gone for a while.
Was it a time frame or was it matches?
It was matches, but then they added on afterwards. And that happened at the Club World Cup, right? Where he lost it on the referee. And yeah, and it was, I mean, he also got injured. But he just came back to Real Madrid to play at FIFA in those tournaments, probably in this round of champions.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
So pretty nuts. But yeah, if I had to describe a player, it'd be one of those defenders from that era for sure. The enforcers.
One of my favorite descriptions in the book was and I think this is the one that I sent everybody to be like, this is the book we need to do, is the Death on the Field, and it talks about
Oh yeah,
the Uruguayan
that's
Aban
right. That's right in the
Porte.
beginning, right?
Yeah, and
That's a crazy story.
he's like, they took him out of the starting lineup. He waited, asked to return, and did, but it was no use. The slump continued. The crowd whistled. On defense, even tortoises got past him. On the attack, he could not score a single goal. The end of summer 19 in the Nacional Stadium, Aban Porte took his own life. He shut himself at midnight at the center of the field where he had been loved. All the lights were out. No one heard the gunshot. They found him at dawn. In one hand, he held a revolver, and in the other, a letter.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh.
Wait, here's another one though. Hours go by, years go by, until the referee orders them to take the corpse off the field. Then suddenly he jumps up, the player whoosh, and the miracle resurrection occurs. It's like taking a dive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually what I want to get into is his attachment to religion, because I always say this is the biggest religion in the world, without a doubt. All the things that people go through, like candles, incense in other countries, it's insane what people do pregame, and we'll talk about that when we get back. You're listening to WLPN LP Chicago, 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio. You're listening to Lumpen FC, and we'll be right back.
This is Sadie Woods, and I'm bringing you Gridlock Sound Lab, Rush Hour Radio featuring house, Afro-Latin rhythms, world beat, disco, funk, soul, electro, and indie dance music. Gridlock Sound Lab, first and third Fridays at 4, only on 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio.
There's nothing like the soothing sounds of a coffee shop. I'm your pal Dud Lawson of the Chicago Printers Guild, here to invite all to join us on the second Wednesday of every month at 6 p.m. for the Chicago Printers Guild Halftone Radio Super Show. Every month we'll bring in one of your favorite Chicago printmakers to share the music they've been playing in the studio. You should tune in, it'll be a good time. The Chicago Printers Guild Halftone Radio Super Show.
You are listening to Lumpen Radio, supported by Mars Community Brewing, maker of the Mars Elixirs. Mars Elixirs are infused with Midwestern hemp. Mars Elixirs are available throughout Chicagoland. More information is available at drinkmars.com. That's drinkmarz.com. Hi, I'm the voice of God at Lumpen Radio. Are you a business owner looking to promote, or are you a loyal listener who wants to sponsor your favorite show? Lumpen Radio offers a wide range of sponsorship and underwriting. Visit lumpenradio.com/support for more information on our tax-deductible sponsorships. Support the community radio of the future.
You're listening to WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio. You are listening to Lumpen FC. On Lumpen FC, we are currently covering Eduardo Galeano's Soccer in Sun and Shadow, translated by Mark Fried, and the introduction done by Rory Smith. And this is the BPF Book Club. If you'd like to be a part of the BPF Book Club, hit us up at 3160-FIRM. Follow us there. We'd like to have as many people available for this book club. We are reviewing the book today on the radio, but we will be doing another one in person on March 15th.
On March 15th, yeah. So come out to Mars, 1 o'clock. Come out after the Liverpool game. I believe it is Liverpool-Everton or maybe Liverpool-Tottenham.
I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, but I know for sure it's a Liverpool game. So come out, discuss with us if you are intrigued by what we are talking about, and you want to share your thoughts in person. We will be there at Mars on March 15th at 1 o'clock.
If you do want to follow any of the events that we have going on, again, follow us on 3160-FIRM on Instagram. You can also follow us at Barra Brava Brewing Co. on Instagram as well. Or hit us up at lumpenfcradio@gmail.com.
You guys on the air?
Yes. Come on
Hello,
in.
everyone.
Come on. Ed's joining us.
Soccer book club.
And so while Ed is sitting down and getting ready, I kind of want to say, in regards to Galliano, I think this is a great the idea of like the book club, the run club, the other events that the BPF is doing is like all a great kind of part of like the counter to the corporatization, because like I think with the Bridgeport Pilsen firm, this is a great way of creating that community for soccer that is not dependent upon being like, oh, we got to go to the game, we got to do this. That's a part of it, but it's like, hey, come out to the run club, come out to the book club, get the book out of the library if you have to, go support Pilsen Community Books and get the book there. So that's all a great way of like just kind of building that community that is soccer based but accessible to everybody.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, he talks a lot about that in the book, what the community is, and we were just talking about what that religious aspect that he was forming with soccer and how he was looking at it. And there is a bunch, because it's a global game. There are a lot of attachments to kind of religious. What's the word? Movements, actions.
I mean, one of the chapter headings is the opiate of the people, and that's
the opiate of the people, correct?
Famously, like I forget which philosopher off the top of my head, but was like, religion, the opiate of the masses, and here he is saying, no, soccer is the opiate of the people, and looking at once again talking about how the game has transitioned and been bought out, and how people have in different ways attempted to reclaim it, because he talks about like the River Plate teams. He's like, once the English and the rich lost possession of the sport, the first popular clubs were organized in railroad workshops and shipyards. Several anarchist and socialist leaders denounced the clubs as a maneuver against the bourgeois to forestall strikes and disguise class divisions. Yeah. And so it's like that idea of like using the game to organize for other things, not just...
Exactly. Yeah. And you saw that a lot, especially in the hooliganism era of what was EPL or the British League at the time. You had a lot of issues that were going on in England. So these groups organized together, and granted, some of them were violent, some were not, some were basically just gangs, some were not. Yeah. But that was that community.
Some were supporting the National Front.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you had that racism element there.
You know. You had the issues again that were going on in Liverpool, especially with Liverpool, with basically against the rest of the country, where they were held as the ones holding everyone back, and then that community had to come together on its own. And to this day, you still see that separation. That like, okay, look, we're Liverpool, this is what we are, and the rest of you are kind of like
forged by a lot of tragedy. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. What was your experience with religion and soccer, Ed?
You know, I think all games are kind of represented as the opiate for the masses, right? Games distract from what's happening in your everyday and your government, but it's also an escape. And it's interesting that the different classes of people advocate and fight for and claim what is football or soccer, right? Like just yesterday, I was at Maria's at a trivia night, and there was a group located close by to where the Fire is going to build their new stadium.
Yeah.
And these extreme left people were very upset about this stadium being built in their neighborhood when there's, a lack of affordable housing here. So it's funny how every aspect of the game, from the owners to the players to where it's located to the supporters to, everyone, is multiple kind of class wars, battles for what does it mean to develop your community or live in your community? It's always very complicated. And, of course, capitalism puts us in that mess at all times. What are our roles in creating this world or destroying this world or participating in this world or escaping this world? There's the yin and yang of football is really fascinating. And to know that Eduardo Galliano wrote this book is great for me. I just popped in here. I snapped a photo.
You can borrow it.
What a great thing to learn about the history of football through the reading club. I think it's genius.
Yeah.
We'll be at Mars March 15th.
Right on.
Discussing in person.
Reading,
Nice.
Yeah. It is a good book to read. I say we kind of think of it as a little bit of an encyclopedia to a certain extent. It's got these sort of vignettes to it. It's a quick read, but it's also maybe one of the the best written books about football that I've
Wow.
that we,
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's pretty good.
You know, your fellow Lumpen Radio guy, Jamie Trecker, wrote a book about the experiences of
We
the
need to
World
get
Cup
him
in
in.
South Korea.
Yeah.
And that was a great book, a great read, and it was fun to learn that football allowed for the liberation of women in South Korea. They were the majority of the fans at the time because men were at work all the time. And it allowed them to kind of escape their kind of like traditional and the patriarchal role of society over their lives. They were like out of their homes and be supporters and fans, and they were the most knowledgeable what was happening within all the various teams that were playing, and it led to a kind of more liberation for women in general in South Korean society. So the power of soccer is immense. People don't know what role it plays in so many different countries in this world.
Yeah. Absolutely. Title IX, which we might read that
might
book
be,
next.
we might do
Yeah,
keeper.
that's definitely
Title
on
IX
the
was big here.
list.
Yeah, and which is why we have a powerhouse of women's teams here in the United States.
And then, like I said, going back to Galliano, that may be something that, if he was still alive, like would
Yeah,
be.
that is probably one of the main things that he would probably be focusing on. I would say, outside of like the continual pessimism that's already manifested itself from what he predicted.
Yeah.
That would be one of the bright things.
I would love to see his little essay on the Peace Cup,
women's game,
the Peace Cup, the women's game. The way he would see it today, it'd be something different. It's
I think
crazy.
I think you'd enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a crazy situation, but the amount of money that's involved. I mean, you're talking trillions. It's a $1 trillion industry. The largest religion in the world. You're looking at what? Camp Nou, 100,000 people. Holds it pretty much anytime there's a Champions League there, 100,000 people. You're looking at the new Real Madrid Stadium, 110,000.
Yeah.
And that's almost every weekend. Just packed.
Yep.
Champions League game was just there, packed.
Yeah.
On a Tuesday. And it used to be, it used to be Saturdays. Then it went Saturday, Sundays. And now you're looking at Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes Friday, sometimes Monday, depending on the league. So it's continuous. I even had because we have our group, right? We have the BPF, and I was actually thinking about, well, okay, we still have to do our nonprofit. Are we going to sign up as a nonprofit? Like, why don't we just sign up as a church? Why don't we just you could probably qualify. You could probably qualify.
Yeah.
Do you have do you go to what do they call the stipulations that they have is, do you go to mass or a service? Yeah, every Saturday, every Saturday or Sunday. Yeah, we go to mass. Do you get together as a group and do prayers? I mean, the soccer gods exist, right? The soccer gods exist, you know. So it's fascinating how you could look at this and say this is probably the largest religion that exists on Earth today.
I mean, and from the American perspective, there was this stat about the Super Bowl and how there was like X amount of people watch the Super Bowl, and they were like, no, more people watch the Man City game.
Yeah,
that weekend.
Yeah, that weekend. That same Sunday, like a few hours earlier in U.S. time, watched Man City versus who was it?
That was Liverpool.
It was City Liverpool.
Yeah.
Or City Arsenal. City Liverpool.
No,
or City Arsenal?
it was City Liverpool.
City Liverpool.
Yeah. And they're like 700,000 people watched that. Only 200,000 people watched the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And
even then, the most important thing they talked about the Super Bowl was the halftime show.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're like, here's your biggest sporting event, but here is 700,000 people watching a regular season game in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And it's so much bigger.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued to see it because it kind of sounds like the Bears will be at Bernabeu in
no.
Really? One of the
They're going to Bernabeu, really?
Yeah, the Bears are one of the teams, I think, that they said because they have to travel and one of the games is going to be there, and I'm because like when they talk about that stadium,
will they know how to play on grass?
They played on terrible grass here. Yeah.
Turbo grass.
Yeah. They play on
not the same.
just like my students do. They play on Park District grass.
Park District grass, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be. I didn't know that they were playing on Bernabeu.
That's one of the things that they're one of the teams that hypothetically may play there next year because I don't think they've announced that like all the home games that are actually away.
Yeah. I mean, if you were talking numbers, though, that's kind of something to bring up. If you're bringing up Real Madrid's stadium, El Clásico is going to be probably in about a month and a half, I think. And it's going to be a super important game for La Liga.
Separated by 1 point right now?
Yeah, they're separated by 1 point at the top of the league. And they're both just way ahead of everybody else at this point. But if I remember correctly, I want to say that one time that this game really, really counted, which was like 3 years ago or something like that, I think something like 1 point some billion people tuned into that game because it was that massive, that important.
Yeah.
And then there was the one that was a Champions League final where it was like 2 billion people tuned into that game. So the amount of numbers that are involved it's massive. I wouldn't even know what would be the number of like Catholics that exist worldwide, and then Catholics, I would say that they're also soccer fans, right?
Yes.
So on top of that,
Yeah. And
the hidden religion.
And that's the thing is in regards to religion is how you're practicing? Do you go every weekend?
Right.
Yeah. That's the true. And I think there are probably more football fans that watch every weekend than attend mass every weekend.
We are up against it. We have 15 minutes left in the show. Is there anything that you guys wanted to cover about the book specifically?
I've got a piece that I'd like to close about, but there was I didn't bring up earlier the quote. This is from a magazine called The Nation, and it was excerpting part of Galliano's last books before it was published after he died in 2017. But I'll just read this very short little excerpt about how the Galliano tells this story about how this book, Soccer and Son of Shadow, may have saved somebody's life. And he says, in at least one instance, the book by the Uruguayan writer Eduardo Galliano may have saved a life. In 1997, Victor Quintana, a Mexican congressman and anti-corruption activist, was abducted by paid assassins, brutally beaten and threatened with death. By his account, he survived by distracting his assailants with stories about soccer. Quirky lyrical tales drawn from the history of the game that Galliano had recently published. After listening to the adventures of Pele and Schifiano, Maradona and Beckenbauer, the killers decided to let Quintana live. "You're a good guy," one of them told him.
Wow.
You know a lot about the game, so we're going to let you live.
Yeah. You know about the beautiful game, so.
Game of the people.
Yeah.
And the way he described that whole Pele section was, there were certain things there that I did not know about the traveling group, the Brazilian traveling group. Nor did I know that they played only in white originally.
Yeah,
That
and
was
then they had to
something
get rid of that to break their curse of the 50s.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. There was also a big amount of that. So like the traditions, the curses, how what was it? What was it? It was the last World Cup, wasn't it? Where one player apparently had a curse on him.
It was the goalie.
That was
It was
the
one
last
of the goalies.
AFCON. There was a bunch of stuff going on in
Yeah,
that
and
one.
AFCON was one of those.
But the one story he talks about it, I regrettably, because he's so many names, I forget the
Was
name.
it Didi?
No, it was a different. And,
Okay.
and he was a goalie, and he was like this unstoppable wall, and
That's right.
he let the goal go in that let, I think, Argentina win.
Right.
And when he retired, and it was like 12 years later at one of the other World Cups, and he wanted to come and talk to the team, and they were like, no.
They wouldn't let him in the
Yeah,
locker
You're
room.
not allowed
don't
to do
even
that.
come.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's gotta hurt.
Bad
That's
mojo.
gotta hurt.
Yeah, and it's like, no, because that stank is still on you. That's how
Yeah.
they felt. It's like, oh.
Yeah, there's also Real Madrid somebody had to bury garlic at the center of the field to get rid of a curse because they hadn't won anything like in 5 years or 5 seasons or something like that.
And there's a Rio de Janeiro curse, too, where there's like a dead frog on the field.
The
that
dead frog,
talks about
and they
it.
can't find it.
They can't find it.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the great thing is like sports brings out that ridiculousness
Oh, yeah.
of like all of the, like you said before, kind of like that religion and that belief in magic.
All the superstitions.
Yeah, and it is the thing that in many ways reduces people very quickly to that like childhood innocence of, oh well, I wore this scarf at this game and I have to wear this scarf for every other, or I did this thing, so now I have to do it every single time. And like, not even if you're a player, like fans are doing that. They have their routines, they have their rituals.
Yeah, it's such a human, like it's such a human.
It's
thing.
dripping
In
in
hockey.
nostalgia.
You have what is it, the playoff beard?
Sure.
In some sports you don't wash the clothes, you don't wash the shirt till they lose.
You've got a streak. Yeah,
you got a streak.
In closing, for me though, I love this book based off the fact that it's just represents Brazil and Brazilian culture and players so hard, and rightfully so, because this is up to 1994 and they really are, in my mind, still very much one of the most dominant nations. And he does talk about 94 where he's like the 5th championship, not for Brazil, but for Adidas. And, he makes a big, point about the commodification of everything too. But at the same time, like going back and looking at this, it really is. It's so romantic if you're a fan of the Brazilian national team. So props to Galliano for that.
Yeah, he flat out says about, more than one reporter noted the shortage of talent, and often several commentators pointed to the style and play imposed by the manager, successful but lacking in magic.
That's even when they won.
Yeah, Brazil had sold its soul to modern soccer, but there was another point that went practically unmentioned. The great teams of the past were made up of Brazilians who played in Brazil. On the 94 team, 8 of them played in Europe. Romario, the highest paid Latin player in the world, was earning more in Spain than all 11 of Brazil's 58 team put together, who were some of the greatest artists in the history of soccer.
Yeah, and we still run into that quite a bit. Like, what was it? The Argentina squad. You had Messi having to pay. So this is the way the story goes: is that Messi had to pay security. He had to pay the security team because they hadn't been paid. He had to pay. There was a time. I mean, Messi makes a lot of money, right? The FA, the Argentinian FA, ended up taking a lot of the money, and the money just disappeared. As it happens in this sport. So he ended up paying the hotel rooms for the security team. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, we're still doing this? Are we still doing this? In AFCON, we've run into those issues quite a bit where a bunch of money goes to a certain FA, a certain group, and it just disappears. In Mexico, it's happened before. The stories are there. Italy, same. And these aren't, it's not 30s, 40s, 50s. This is now. This is in the last 10 years, in the last 5 years.
And now you hear the stories about the DraftKings and the betting online. And, and like, what was the most recent one about Rodri? And like, did he?
What did Rodri do?
Oh, there was something about like a giveaway that he had that led to a goal, and they were like, oh, was this him shaving because there was like a huge spike in bets right away that there would be one more goal scored, and they're like.
There's a lot of dark money, man.
This gambling thing is going to be really, really bad I think for every game.
Yeah.
We already saw what's happened in basketball. We will have to look into the NFL is very, very tight. They're very closed. They protect the shield very well, but there's got to be something going on that we don't know about yet. Man, and in soccer though, it's just so. You're looking at so many angles that you can attack it from. VAR refs on the field, the fans. You pay fans to, hey, we're going to place a bet. The fans will throw a flare on the field at a certain time.
Streaker bet on himself to come out.
A streaker, it's going to be a little out of control on how we have to regulate this somehow, because it can get out of control very quick. And it's something that Eduardo didn't have to deal with. I really wonder what his perspective would be. I think it would be, like you said, more on the very, very cynical side of like, well, at this point, everything's it's just crazy.
I think very much he would kind of be like, hey, we have to find a new version of the game or go back to like the grassroots. I think he would be an advocate for lower tiers.
I'm already an advocate for what. I don't need the 100,000 seat stadium. I don't need. I prefer a 20,000 seat stadium. I prefer a small stadium.
Well, that's what we're gonna get.
Yeah. I mean, I hope so.
Yeah.
No, I like tiny stadiums.
The way that they have it, the way that I've seen it portrayed looks great, man.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Now, will that give them the excuse like, well, we have to raise tickets because more people want to go?
I don't think it's gonna be cheaper.
It's not gonna be cheaper.
Yeah. But I'd like to end on his own words, the last little bit. So I love the later versions, it ended in 95, and then the other versions were like called Extra Time, where he would add in more for each future World Cup. But where he ended in 95, Galliano said, and this calls back to the very beginning of the book when he talks about like, I couldn't play myself. I had 2 left feet. But here at the end, he says, for years I felt challenged by the memory and reality of soccer, and I have tried to write something worthy of this great pagan mass, able to speak such different languages and unleash such universal passion. By writing, I was going to do with my hands what I could never accomplish with my feet. Irredeemable klutz, disgrace of the playing fields. I had no choice but to ask of the words what the ball I so desired denied me. From that challenge and from the need for expiation, this book was born. Homage to soccer, celebration of its lights, denunciation of its shadows. I don't know if it turned out the way soccer would have liked, but I knew it grew within me and has reached the final page, and now it is born, and it is yours. And I feel the irreparable melancholy that we all feel after one makes love or at the very end of a match.
That's fantastic. That is Eduardo Galliano, Soccer, Sun and Shadow. It is originally written in Spanish, but you can get the translated version translated by Mark Freed, and the introduction was by Rory Smith on the book that I have, the copy that I have. It is a fantastic read so far. I do plan on finishing it this weekend, and it is one of those books where you can just rifle to a page and then read that page. You don't have to read it in sequence. You are listening to WLPN Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio. You're listening to Lumpen FC. If you'd like to get in contact with us or find out what events we have going on, you can hit us up on Instagram at 3160firm. That would be the Bridgeport Pilsen Firm site, or you can hit us at Barra Brava Brewing Co. On Instagram as well. If you want to send us an email at lumpenfcradio@gmail.com. That's lumpenfcradio@gmail.com. And if you want to be a part of the show from home, you can hit us up on Twitch while we are on the air on Lumpen TV on Twitch. I've been here with John and Drew today. Do you guys have anything to add before we close out?
And Big Ed made a cameo.
and Ed made a cameo. It's awesome.
Come out, support the Fire on Saturday.
Absolutely.
First home game. Tailgate starts at 10:30.
There will be pancakes from Section 8, I hear.
Yeah, Section 8 pancakes. Come out.
It'll be a good time. Do we have any? Yeah. No, so we'll be tailgating also nice and early.
Pete will have
it'll be a 1:30 match. You can also again for any of the events, hit us up on those Instagram sites that I said, and you will know where we'll be at and what we will be doing and what will be going on.
And for the book we've been talking about, March 15th, come out 1:00 Mars. If you have been interested in what we've been talking about, come out, read along. You don't have to read a lot. It is fantastic. It'll be a great experience.
Once again, you've been listening to WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM, Lumpen Radio. You've been listening to Lumpen FC. Have a good night, y'all.
Wow.